Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Landwerlen. I am a senior at Michigan State University studying fisheries and wildlife. I have an interest in ornithology, the study of birds, and I am here to discuss a research project my coworker Evan Griffiths and I wrote and carried out this summer at Marsh Ecological Research Center. Evan and I had the opportunity to initiate a long-term data set monitoring secretive marsh bird populations. We were specifically interested in marsh wrens, Virginia rail, and sora. Each of these species are reliant on wetlands for nesting and raising their young. Wetlands are increasingly threatened by climate change, invasive species, and intensification of agriculture and urbanization. Therefore, understanding current populations at our site is critical to protecting these species in the face of habitat degradation and loss. This summer, we focused on developing a baseline of data on the birds inhabiting the marsh. Specifically, we are interested in the current number of birds breeding at CMERC and their habitat requirements within a wetland ecosystem. In Corey Marsh, as many wetlands across the Midwest, non-native plants are replacing native species, which can alter the hydrology and reduce suitability for many species that rely on the marsh. Our goal is that future MSU students, faculty, and partners will work to rehabilitate these wetlands at CMERC and track changes in the plant and animal communities. Our baseline data on secretive marsh birds will prove useful for assessing the impact of wetland restoration on the health of these sensitive bird species. We collected baseline data using several methods. To count the marsh wrens of the area, we conducted point count surveys. These consisted of walking to a predetermined point and listening for approximately 10 minutes for singing wrens. We then record the number of birds we heard and the directions from which we heard them. This is a short clip of what this method looked like in the field. Monitoring the rail population at the marsh was more hands-on. Rails are a cryptic species and are typically difficult to spot. Luckily at our site, they frequently cross trails and make themselves visible to us and visitors. Because they are likely to be seen at CMERC, we decided to capture the birds and color mark them. Color marking the birds allows us to track the population more closely and see which birds return each year based on re-sighting individuals. We trapped our birds in a callback maze trap generously donated by Winus Point Marsh Conservancy. The trap consisted of a speaker and a rubberized hardware cloth cage. The speaker played rail calls overnight, and the following morning we would check for trapped birds. After capturing birds, we placed aluminum bands and color bands on their legs, with a unique combination of colors for each bird. We then took several measurements, including wing length, leg length, and bill length. We also checked their overall body condition to see how healthy these birds were. Finally, we released the birds. In the following video, you can watch and see the entire process. This is a Virginia rail that we caught last night here at Marsh Ecological Research Center. We're going to take you step by step through how we band these guys. We start by giving them a metal band on their right leg with a 9-number code that identifies each of the individuals. So, put it up above its joint so it doesn't get in the way of the bird's life in the marsh. Make sure it's nice and tight. Then, with our birds, we're giving them color bands because these birds like to cross the path, and so we want to be able to know individuals without having to recatch them. So we start with a white color underneath the metal band. That way we know that the bird was banded this year. And this one's really feisty. To get the bands on, we use this little banding spoon, and we just slide the bands on here and slide them onto their legs. And then on the left leg, we'll give 2 other colors that will be this bird's personal identifiers. So for him, we're going to do white over green. Alright, now our visitors will be able to come and recognize this individual. Now we're going to take body measurements, starting with the length of the tarsus. The length of the tarsus is the distance from their intertarsal joint to the top of their foot.
Next, we're going to measure the length of the wing, which rails have small wings to begin with. What we'll do is we'll take the wrist of the bird and push it up against this special ruler, and we'll make the wing as nice as we can to get an accurate measurement. And this guy has 97 millimeter wing length. Now we're going to look at fat and muscle of this bird. In order to do that, we have to blow away the feathers on the breast of the bird. This helps us to see the keel in something called the furcular hollow, which is where they store a lot of their fat, and we'll be able to see it if he has any. Right here is the keel, and he doesn't have a ton of muscles, so I'm going to give him a muscle score of 1. And up here is his furcular hollow. And there's no fat there that we can see, so we'll give him a score of 0.5. Next, we're going to weigh the bird. In order to do that, we have to place them in this tube so they don't wiggle around a bunch when they're on the scale. And after we've banded the birds and taken all the measurements, we'll release them back into the marsh.
We were pleasantly surprised to find that marsh wren, Virginia rails, and sora are actually more common than we knew based on observations alone. Prior to our surveys, it was estimated that 6 marsh wrens were present based on observations from eBird, a citizen science project. We detected 14 territories and believe that there are likely far more that were not accounted for by our survey. And for rails, we captured and banded 14 Virginia rails, both adult and juvenile. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were delayed in banding efforts and did not have any luck with sora, which may be due to technique or timing. These data will be vital for continued research of marsh birds at CMERC. Future undergrads will be able to conduct their own experiments using data from the summer. This data will also be an important source of species prevalence in the state of Michigan. Working at Corey Marsh has been a wonderful learning experience for both Evan and I, and will certainly help us in our future careers. I feel incredibly lucky to have had this experience and to have been able to work with these wonderful birds.